Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. Please let us introduce the results of part of our work of our association or NGO focused on combating invasive plant species in southwestern Slovakia. So the name of the organizations can be visible. We are working almost 20 years on nature conservation in southwestern Slovakia, focusing mainly on restoration of forest, wetland and grassland habitats. So the target area where the invasives were treated or removed comprises of one large site of community importance, which is Danube floodplain forests. The section is quite large in size. It includes Danube from Bratislava to Ipoly River, so almost all the Slovakian part of the Danube section. And these are mostly alluvial forest habitats, which of course were severely damaged or influenced by change of water regime after damming of Danube, and also intensive forestry, which created a large niche for this invasive species to spread. And also treatments were done in 3 other sites, which are smaller in size and with different conditions of salt steppe and sand dune habitats. Here the target area can be seen on the map, and the Danube floodplains area is marked with red patches, and the 3 smaller sites are marked with yellow dots. The area of treatments is marked with red patches. As the starting situation, we had quite a large area, so the first thing we had to do, of course, we couldn't do all the invasive species on all the areas, so we had to decide how to invest effort, the labor, and of course the funds as well, to gain maximum effect when possible with, at least labor. Or how would I say? So the first thing what we did was manual mapping of forests in field. We mapped in this area here up to this place. So maybe some 60 kilometers of section of Danube floodplain forests. We mapped each forest stand manually, more than or approximately 1,000 forest stands. The mapping was carried out mostly in winter, since the visual conditions were good and most of the arboreal invasive species were better visible than in summer. The information was stored in field using GPS. The information listed was stored. Then it was all exported into computer and evaluated in GIS, and the layer was of course analyzed. Based on the analysis, the species which are listed in red, the 5 above, were evaluated as in current circumstances or in the conditions we had as kind of not cost effective, because they were spread more in the whole area and in a quite high infestation, in quite a high density. So we evaluated them that in current circumstances we don't have possibility to remove them like on a large scale or in the whole area. In the species which are listed in black, still the infestation wasn't that severe, or it was not in the whole area of Danube, and and of course it can be seen that these were quite aggressive species with a high potential of spreading, such as Ailanthus altissima or Amorpha fruticosa, or also Buddleia davidi, which we tried to isolate or completely remove from the target area. So this is just the species that were treated. For Fallopia species, there were occurrence of several patches, or more patches, but of course not all of these were selected for treatments. Only selected patches were done, or the treatments were carried out. Same was for Asclepias syriaca. So the strategy of treatments was more or less explained. And of course, besides this, the picking of the species where it had the highest effect or highest chance for long-term effect, we tried to prefer or focus on species which had a high risk of spreading. These were species, and also in terms of spatial localization. This means patches of invasives which have a higher risk of spreading, such as patches which are close to clear cuts, existing or planned. That means that we try to consult also foresters, and when there are some clear cuts or cutting planned, we try to prepare the plot before to remove the invasives. And also, for example, when there were bordering forest roads or open gravel patches. The plan was to try to create invasive free zones, so-called, as large as possible, of course. The treated area in total can be seen here, and the treatments were carried out in 2014 and 2015, most of them repeated 2 times. Maybe the approach could be explained on the example of Ailanthus altissima in the Danube inland delta. The infestation was highest in this area, and so we tried to start in areas where infestation was low, where there were only isolated patches. Sorry. Excuse me. Well, yeah, we started in areas where the infestation was not that high, and tried to remove as much or with as high effectivity as possible, and kind of clear these areas from Ailanthus and move upstream where the infestation was higher and higher, and then in this area the infestation was highest, but we tried to at least isolate this area and clear this area when possible, this and this one. Also, in these patches near Bratislava, Ailanthus was removed, mostly in Danube inundation. And the treatment method is explained here. We used a trunk injection method for adult trees, also drilling and also applying concentrated herbicide to the cutted wounds immediately after cutting. Herbicide of this type was used, and the treatment period was active vegetation season, summer to autumn. And yeah, also these details are in terms of small trees and spruce, spraying was used of diluted herbicide, and treatment was repeated the next year where required. For Ailanthus altissima, the effectivity ranged between 80 to up to 98% per treatment. Usually it was more than 90%. The treatment was considered as effective when there was no rejuvenation and all the leaves were dead. Yeah, just some pictures. For bush invasive species, which are listed above, spraying of the diluted herbicide on leaf surface was used, also using adhesive to improve permeation. Amorpha fruticosa in Slovak section of Danube occurrence starts from here to Ipoly river, and we try to treat all Amorpha which is found in the inundation, starting from here, and yeah, most of it is found in here. So here it was only single patches, but here it was in many places just really broad. So this was the treated area. It was done in 2 years, 2014 and 15, and yeah, the effectivity was as listed. In some places there were problems to reach middle sections when there were dense growths, and yeah, in some problems which occurred were rejuvenation from seeds in some places. These seeds, as we saw it or evaluated, was partly from seed bank, but possibly also from those which were brought by Danube, as it was many times on the water line after floods. Yeah, some pictures. And for Buddleia davidi, this species was only starting to spread in Danube inundation, but this is a situation where it is most effective to stop the species. So we tried to put some effort to stop this species when it was still possible or not required that much work. So it was in this area and also in some isolated patches near Bratislava. Also two rounds of treatment applied, and the effectivity can be seen. The problems which occurred, in a less extent, but were similar to those which were with Amorpha. Also, of course, when there was rejuvenation from seeds, we tried to spray the seedlings. Yeah, just a small detour. This was elimination of, just a small example of elimination of Solidago and Aster, the invasive species of this genera, which was carried out in a smaller site of salt marshes near Komárno town. The borders can be seen here, up to 20 hectares large. And yeah, in past it was used for grazing, presently more than 30 years without any management. So quite overgrown by Solidago and Aster at the start of the project or at the start of the grazing. And after 2 grazing seasons, it was like this. You can still see the remnants of Solidago, but presently it is significantly much more suppressed or almost zero occurrence. Of course, the grazing continues still. So just maybe to the end, also an important issue was communication with stakeholders, especially with hunters, which were not very keen of these treatments, especially during the hunting season, the red deer hunting season. Also important with landowners, especially to explain them that only not valuable tree species were treated, not Negundo and Fraxinus, which they often use for firewood. Also important communication was with foresters and try to incorporate the obligation to remove these invasive species into forestry management plans, which was already done in 2005, and we are currently fighting to introduce this obligation also to the recently prepared forest management plan. And also important issue is policy and updating the national list of forbidden invasives, and these 2 species were recently added, which is important. Yeah, and yeah, this is just a short summary of things which were mentioned. So, and challenges for future were in these 3 arboreal species, Ailanthus, Amorpha and Buddleia, we will try to succeed. Of course, it will require further effort, but we will try to succeed in removing them almost completely or completely when possible. And of course, for future use of this inundation and to stop future spreading of invasives, more sustainable forestry practices should be used, especially to reduce planting of hybrid poplar plantations. Also think about or consider grazing in floodplain areas, including mature forests. And yeah, of course, international cooperation would be advisable or very good. And yeah. And also proper management of catchment area, especially the contact zones, for example, where the river flows through the cities or near highways or railways. Because especially on highway embankments in Slovakia, these invasives were planted in the past, so they pose a problem. Yeah, and that's all.
Thank you very much, Pavol. Any questions from the audience? No, there is one question. Okay.
I have a question. If the project will be continued and for what funds also were used until now and in future?
Yeah, but yes, we also plan to continue in this season in 2016, especially with monitoring of the treated areas and where it will be necessary also to repeat the treatments. And also, for example, these Ailanthus try to spread this treated area. Yeah, of course, I maybe forgot to mention it was the funds for this came from more life projects, and each of them kind of funds for different area was used. So this was kind of a combination of recently carried out work, kind of with different projects. Also one with cooperation with Hungarian partner Husk project, so focused on invasives. So thank you.
Any more questions? Yes.
Yeah, my question is if you tried mechanical removal for amorpha before trying chemical treatment, because in protected areas we have serious problems with chemicals, and we try to convince local communities to use, or private owners to use less and less chemicals, and it's a little bit strange for us to leave from this seminar with the idea that the chemical solution is the only one.
Yeah. Yeah, not a bad point. Actually, we did this. We did a combined method, not a pure chemical mechanical method, but a combined method of cutting the amorpha trunks and painting the cutted area immediately after cutting. But we noticed rejuvenation after this type of treatment, so we realized that we evaluated it as not effective enough in our situation. Maybe some kind of different type of treatment would be better, but this combined type was, in our case, not successful enough.
Did you try to remove the roots, for example?
I don't think so. Probably not. But
Thank you.
yeah. But yeah, maybe I'm not sure if I can imagine it in this terrain and in this degree of infestation. But yeah, I cannot say that it's not possible.
Yeah, for the asker piece, the problem with Ailanthus is that it's a tropical. Sorry. Not Ailanthus. Okay, sorry.
Okay. I don't allow more questions because we're running out of time. So thank you very much.